Yeah.
Things seem to be going pretty well with that youth organization I'm working with.
Yeah.
We're really doing well at the Mite level. It's just a great bunch of coaches involved with that piece, and they really get it. They're really working hard with the kids on the edges and finding ways to make what we're doing fun. And I got a little skin in the game because I got a 7-year-old grandson that's in it too. So that's good. And I'm working with we got 10U, which kind of like a second team, wouldn't be an A team necessarily, maybe half a step down from that, and 2 teams at the U12 level, and just kind of getting into the season here with them, mentoring those coaches, and I think there's a lot of promise there. I think we got to get them on board with letting the kids figure out the puzzle piece of things, right? Instead of giving them all the information. And if you go back and morning, Sammy, how are you?
Hi, Sammy.
If you go back, for me anyway, you go back 30 years ago, and it was put the winger's butt on the boards. We'll pick the puck up behind the net. We'll pass to that winger, and that's our breakout. That's what it used to be way back when. So it's obviously the game has evolved to that, and finding ways for those coaches to understand that and teach, if you will, options, and let the kids figure it out. Because there's nothing more fun than dumping a puck in a corner, maybe making some sort of a 3-on-3 where the first team that gets it recovers it. Now they're on offense, the other team's on defense, and you got to end up passing back to the coach, maybe who's up on the blue line. So how do we do that if you put in the rule everybody has to touch the puck before it gets to coach? So like, how do we do that? And it's kind of fun watching them figure out the puzzle.
Like, what age and level are you talking about?
I'm talking 10U.
Okay. Sammy, I'm going to ask you, are you coaching? Are your kids still playing?
No, and not really. So my daughter doesn't want to play hockey, so we allowed her to do other things, and that's okay. So she's doing gymnastics and rock climbing and karate. And then we just go to the local public skating rink like once a week and just kind of skate and just have fun, which she seems to like. So in terms of coaching, I don't actually now formally coach a team, but that means that I get asked to do a lot of sort of one-offs. So I visit all the local girls organizations and do like a basically exciting practice. I mean, I get to bring my best stuff and work with the goalies a little bit and then sign some autographs afterwards and take some pictures. And then it's almost like being a grandparent. You get to like hand them back to the real coach.
Yeah, which when that time comes for you, you will revel in that. Let me tell you.
I'm sure. So yeah, I feel like my this is the least amount of hockey. Billy's not playing either. Billy's involved in track and field now, and has joined sort of a whole new organization. And it's actually kind of glorious to have our weekends free again. We've never had that our entire lives, so that's really nice. But I went down to Stony Creek this weekend to watch one of my friend's daughters play, which is like the big hockey tournament. And it was nice to be around it, but there's certainly, I mean, there's so much drama and so much like intensity at that level. And it just was like, oh yeah, this is the entire family's dedicated weekend. So anyways, I at this point, I'm not really missing it. Like, it's just kind of nice to be able to have time to spend with different teams and friends and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Sammy, was this the like the U19 Stony Creek, all that age group, was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I used to coach the women's team, that was always such a big weekend, a big trip for them to go to that.
Yeah, my friend was in from Winnipeg, so his daughter played, and then you get there's so many people you see, like Brittany Howard, who just retired from the PWHL Toronto, who played with me with the Toronto Sixes, now coaching Pittsburgh. So got to see her U19 team play, I guess, U19. Yeah, so I mean, all the scouts were there because none of the NCAA programs have started. So there's probably like a row of 35 NCAA scouts up in the stands, and which of course a lot of them I know. Fun to see a lot of those people too. So
Yeah,
it was fun.
let me ask you something. As far as with the women committing, because I got a friend that he's Division III, and he's always felt like by the time it's January, most of the women know what they're doing and where they're going to go. Is that correct? Because it's different with the men. The men, especially at like the Division II, Division III level, seem to hang on until April, hoping that they're going to get quote unquote something better. But do the women, are they generally like to know where they're going by January? Is that accurate?
Yeah, Peter, I would say that even the majority, like grade 10, 11, kind of seem to know. I've counseled a lot of parents of late whose daughters don't know at the beginning of grade 11 and are very worried or very fearful. And I say, it doesn't matter. Like if your daughter is of that level, something will pan out. There's so many options. But I think, for the big schools, they're getting the kids to pre-commit in grade 9, grade
Sure.
10.
Yeah.
And then they kind of fall into the cycle of this many D are coming in, this many. But a lot of NCAA coaches seem to renege on some of those commitments too, which is also hard. So just because you think you're going, but yeah, so I would say by January, the majority have an idea of where they're going. But there's also this extra level of pressure on the parents and the kids that they're the only one that doesn't know. Well, if you're the only one that doesn't know, then there's all these scouts that are still looking for teams that you probably have the pick of the litter at that point. I feel like a lot overcommit too early, in my opinion. But I guess there is something to be said for knowing, having an idea of where you're going. But the majority would come into this PWHL, or it's not called PWHL anymore because that's the new league, under 22 elite. The majority would come into that league kind of having an idea of where they're going.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, like I say, with even like I say at the Division III level, if your team is sort of like the curse, like you want the better players, right? But if that kid's team made the playoffs, I mean, they wouldn't commit till the end of April, maybe the 1st of May, just waiting for wherever, I don't know, wherever that best offer
Right.
is.
That's kind of what U Sports runs into up here. The Canadian universities are kind of waiting for the kids to either decommit to some schools or get left out of the fray. And yeah, it is just so much pressure on just seeing the grouping of scouts up there at this tournament, and the kids are grade 9, grade 10, it's a lot.
Yeah. I see Mike Benelli there. Mike, did your truck break down or something? And why are you not somewhere doing something?
No, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, hey, this is Thursday. I can see if these guys are on the call here today. Pretty good.
Mike,
Yeah.
I got a question. I know you joined and you heard the conversation. We've been all over the map. I want to know, I've joined you on Instagram.
Whoa, Wally.
Oh yeah,
Wally is all over Instagram. It's great.
I love it.
And I'm really finding you're doing a lot of your own podcasts, Mike, and doing a lot of promoting the game and the good of the game, and work in not just ice hockey, but you're doing other things on the side. Here we are talking about ice hockey, and the major dilemma is aspirations of parents and kids to get a scholarship. I think that's in so-called elite hockey.
Yeah.
That becomes a distraction and an unhealthy kind of environment. And in the work you do, are you facing that? Is that part of something you deal with?
Yeah, so here in Connecticut, I actually work with an organization that does, so I'm working actually helping build a U19 girls program right now. It's their U19 national program. So doing all their training and kind of mentoring and is stepping them through the process of these girls aren't committed yet to colleges. So they're kind of in the middle, right? They're probably could have went to school, taking some schooling online, but they're really trying to, almost like the junior version of girls hockey, which has been fun. But there's a lot, like to Sammy Joe's point, there's a lot of stressors there and a lot of FOMO and, a lot of, hey, I haven't been picked up yet. What does that mean for me? And then I've also been working with the Pee Wee Quebec and Brick tryouts for a couple of different organizations, like going in and helping them. And that, for 9-year-olds, it is unbelievable. The expectations put on these kids and where they should end up. It's just not, I don't know. I have a different view of it because I just don't think it's fair from a organizational point of view.
What are the expectations? What's the?
I mean, I think the running theme right now is if you make a Brick team when you're, or the Pee Wee Quebec team, you're probably gonna play pro hockey.
Oh my goodness.
So if you're in that mix,
Okay.
at 9, 10, 11 years old, then
So Mike,
you just double down on that.
you can go back and statistically check that, right? Has anybody done that?
Yeah, well, so I did, and shockingly, I mean, the problem is it's actually it's pretty accurate. I mean, and again, I think the theory is what happens is once the kids get identified early, those now kids do much, much more. And, they're probably great athletes to begin with if they're competent at that age. And then
they have the wealth to be able to get into those teams.
Listen, there's no Hyundais in the parking lot. It's basic. And there's no 83 Toyotas. It's Range Rovers and Beamers and not Apple. What's that new car? The Tesla truck. Like that's all it is. I mean, it's crazy. The money is outrageous, and it's we just keep feeding it. So I think that it is like for what I'm doing, you see it earlier and earlier and earlier. And then you're looking at 9-year-olds that they're kind of formulating their career.
But it is kind of manifest destiny. Like if they are the ones getting there, like that's tough.
Well, they are. I mean, the stats. I mean, again, is it 90%? No, it's probably. I bet you it's pretty close to like. I bet you if you took a roster of kids, like look at Zegras' year, right? You take a roster of those kids from Quebec, and I think every single one of them played Division I college hockey. So, and then a big number are playing pro hockey right now. So it's a big number, but the problem is it's not like back in the day. I think it's getting bigger and bigger because the pool is getting tighter and tighter earlier and earlier. So kids are getting knocked out of that. So it's just like you said, it basically is the pressure to get into that river is really high because I think when people feel like they don't get in, they feel like they've missed an opportunity to continue their
I mean, I think
hockey career.
In hockey, we need to do a better job of letting people know. Like, I don't think that that's a bad thing. If people want to aspire to the elitism, that's okay. But that there needs to be more of a messaging that there is still some really great hockey available and that there's still fun for the rest of your life and that there's, everybody ends up in recreational hockey at the age of 50 anyways.
Right. It all reverts back to an adult league. But I think beer league, right? But I think Wally, to your point too, I have been doing a lot. Like our Kids Play Hockey podcast has actually gotten pretty big. We've had Pete on there a couple of times, but it's gotten really we've kind of expanded into our Girls Play Hockey, and we're working with Sherry Hudspeth, who's she's now leading the Vegas Golden Knights. So we've been having some good guests.
That's awesome. And if you're spewing some of what Wally likes, that means it must be great.
It's all Wally Kozak stuff, so it's all good. It's basically, it just gives us another platform to reach a different sector of hockey. and Sherry's done a good job, and I'm sure you'll get the call at some point, Sammy. But I think it's because we're just really, we had Kim McCullough on I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and a couple Olympians, U.S. Olympians, and Megan Bozak was on, and a couple of good women, and then our regular podcast is doing well too. But it all speaks to that. It all speaks to the do you have to make these decisions at 11? What do you do if you haven't? What's the anxiety of playing, especially like on the girls' side? Like, when do you switch over to playing with boys? Do you need to do that? Can you just play with girls your whole life? So there's a lot of it's really been very educational for me to be on those those podcasts as a host, because I learned so much just from the guests we have on.
That's awesome.
But they've been fun, and but again, I think I've learned to lean towards the fact that the facts are the facts. These kids, there are early identified players that are really good, and they end up being really good adult players, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a whole nother world of the sport out there that's not all about making the PWHL or the NHL, and I think that's underutilized by a lot of parents until it's too late, right? Because I wish I wouldn't have had my kid quit playing soccer at 8 because they committed to hockey, and actually they're probably a much better soccer player, or they missed a whole piece of their life because they just weren't home. But you live and you learn, and I guess you wait for the next kid. try to make amends. I don't know. But yeah, I've missed these calls while I keep keeping track with your YouTube channel and everything, so I get to get on there and try to catch up on some of these the conversations you guys have.
Recently, I've been posting tons of drills that I personally have experienced, and I'm doing them with the U13 coaching staffs and players, and they're drills that I did with the national men's and women's team. They're teaching tactical skating and team tactics in a way that is really productive. I think it fills a skill gap. People work on skills, but they don't translate that into execution of the skills in the game, and that's where tactical skills come in. But as far as this, the way my conversation has gone lately, Tom Malloy and I and Peter have been on. We've had a goaltending coach on, and Sammy, I wish I knew you were going to come on. Give me a heads up. I'll set up a call with Pasco.
I know Pasco. We did our elite goalie stuff together.
His book is pretty detailed. I talked to Dave Marcoux about it, who's got a great big goaltending business, worked with the Flames for years, and he and Pasco are really close. But he mentioned the details that he gets into can at sometimes be overwhelming and distracting. And I'm sure they're scientifically validating, but in terms of getting something useful out of it to apply, I think serious goalies could read the book and would pick up so much information, or goalie coaches. He really expresses.
Well, if it's anything the way he is as a person, he's super energetic and he just talks a million miles. He is so intelligent and so smart. So if the book is anything like that, I'm sure that everybody can pick up something from it.
Well, my goal then, Sammy, is to get you and him on, because and Dave Marcoux said he would join us as well. And, I have questions from a minor hockey perspective. And I'm talking elite, where the dilemma starts, Mike. Well,
Wally, right before my camps this summer, I read Daryl Belfry's book. I had never read it before.
Yeah.
And that was super impactful as a coach with kids. Like, have the rest of you guys read his book?
I have. Have you read both books or just the first one?
Just the first one. I didn't know there was a second one.
There's a second one. The first one's a classic, and I've actually read it 5 times. I'm highlighting with a different colored pen.
Yeah, and it depends on what group you're working. That's what I love about the book. I love that it depends on what kind of level you're working with, because you'll find something different as a coach mentality. I love that he's super open and honest and talks about all the things he did wrong. Because then you see some of it, you're like, oh, I'm doing that. Oh, and then as he grows as a coach and gets better, you realize, oh, there's this whole other level of like being able to get more from the person.
Yeah. I find the most amazing, and I don't know if amazing is a word, or the most impacting takeaway from his first book is his phrase, the student is a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is really the undiscovered art of coaching.
Well, the fact that he didn't have a hockey background at that level, like that's what makes him so great, is he had to learn it all from his students.
Yeah. And he had the wherewithal to watch and think deeply about what they were doing and trying to find their comfort zone and get out of it and see if they could function. He would challenge them, but he wasn't telling them. He was pushing them and listening to them, and they were discovering. The athletes were discovering what to do and what they could do differently on their own, because he gave them the freedom. In relation to it, Sammy, I think you might have been on when Daryl was on.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about a camp in Florida with the big boys there, Tavares and Kane and Crosby, and they had made an arrangement to have a large space to themselves with a television. And he ran it by Patrick Kane about doing some video stuff. And he said, Patrick, I'd like you to talk through your shift, what you did, what you were thinking. You think this would work with the guys? And he said, yeah, let's give it a try. And sure enough, it led to him learning, and each player that listened, learning and asking questions about the mind and what was going through the genius players' minds as they played, their awareness of the surroundings. And I think it's something that's acquired over time, mastered over time, but they develop an amazing intuitive connection to the environment and thinking and executing within that at a real high speed. And that amazed me the most is ask the athletes, get them thinking and becoming aware of what they're doing and questioning what they're doing in terms of why and what could be better. And they do that. They invent things. So
I also love that he talked about having different levels on the same time and how to negotiate that and how to find something that each athlete can do and something that each athlete is pushing them beyond. But how to sort of multitask all of the different athletes that are in front of you at the same time. I found that super valuable, that you're not just teaching the same thing to the same people, even though it's the same drill. I love that.
Well, I'd like to bring this down to a minor hockey level.
Exactly. Well, that's where I was doing it, was at my hockey school where nobody's elite.
And it isn't whether they're elite or not, it's what are they thinking when they're doing things? Mike, you're beginning kids, your kids having fun and just playing and maybe aspiring to get to another level. And coaching traditionally has been telling them what to do and yelling at it and giving them the structure and never thinking for yourself. No freedom to think and discover. It's just like our education system. Back in my day, you had to memorize. You prepared for departmentals, which were exams. Everybody wrote a common exam. We were not taught to think. And I think at the minor hockey level, and kids think more today. And you, Tammy, with kids younger, you might talk to that. Are they more informed? Do they have more information? Have they got more questions? Are they more open-minded to discovery? Are they discovering? In fact, are they learning, not memorizing? Does that make sense, Sammy?
Yeah, it does. It's interesting at the, I don't want to say that I'm totally beginner because some of my players have been playing for some years, and I do get some AA and AAA kids, but the kids that are sort of newish to the sport are, I think they're so used to such structure right away that when we do games of play, it takes a little bit longer to get them enthusiastic for it almost. But yeah, now you don't have to follow any structure. Now you can do that. And the struggle with trying to, it's interesting. Yeah, that I feel like they struggle a little bit with letting go of that rigidity that I think also might come from the classroom as well. Like you're kind of more, I don't know, there just isn't as much play as there was back in the day. Play in general, like going to the park and playing, and just going for riding your bike and all of those kind of things. So does that translate onto the hockey surface when I'm seeing them? Like, is that why they are not able to sort of embrace play as much? I've never really thought about it like you have, Wally, but it is a really good point that, yeah, I'm finding I'm having to explain play more. Like a simple game of treasure that you would think would be like a gym class kind of type thing. Capture the flag, treasure, capture the flag, would be something that would be just synonymous with kids, but maybe it's just a little bit different the way that's being taught in schools. I don't know. Jordan's here now. Maybe he can talk to that.
I guess the question is, and I'll ask you, Jordan, do kids play? He worked in elementary school. And do they really play? Like, do they make up their own games? And do they have fun? Find things to do that they enjoy that might or might not be competitive? I don't know. Jordan, are you on, or are you in and out of the office again?
Yeah, I'm actually here, Wally. I just hopped on after bus arrival and some of those things, and it's yeah, that's a loaded question. Do kids play? It's one of the interesting things is if you provide them the opportunity to, they will. What I was reaching for was this book. It's one that my staff has all read over this past summer, and it talks about the great rewiring of children's brains and how we're doing it voluntarily with the use of smartphones, and because whereas we would have been playing outside road hockey or all those sorts of things, just scrub ball or whatever, kids, what do they do now is they gravitate to the device, and so they sit and are well, many are addicted to it. We're in Alberta this year, they have had the legislation coming in that we are to remove cell phones from classrooms where we see fit. It's that it was a real interesting legislation, but I won't go into that. How
where we see fit. Interesting.
Yeah, where educators see fit. That it was supposed to be a ban on personal devices in schools, under the discretion of educators. So it basically said, yeah, we agree that they're a distraction, shouldn't be there, but it's up to you to come up with the rule and enforce it. We're not going to do that. So, but where it comes into kind of rambling here a little bit is that play is one of those things that has gone a little bit away, partially because of smartphones and things like that, but also partially because adults have structured kids' time far more than ever before. You look at it, and one of the things that this author was talking about in there is about getting away from so much structured time for kids, and that we structure every moment, that kids don't create their own games or play. And then the other piece is that we try and take out all risk. So needs to be some risk involved as well. And when we take away risky play at young ages, like, well, I think about what was a playground structure when I was a kid was a heck of a lot different than what we have now. And you know, if you didn't get slivers or splinters at recess, then you weren't playing hard enough. But now everything is so safetied up that we've taken the risk out. So some of that piece as well. I also go back to what the person was talking about when they asked me, why do we tier sports? Or like hockey, why do we tier it? And I said, well, I'm thinking that you've got a different answer, but it's so that like skilled players will be playing against each other. And they said, yep, that's not right. And they said, because you can put a whole group of kids on a shinny pond and they'll play all afternoon with all different levels and they'll have fun. They won't worry about the score. They might have a dust up or two and solve it. But he said the real reason why we tier players is for parents, so they can sew 1A, 2As, or 3As on their coats. Less to do about the kids. But that being said, I think that play has disappeared a little bit. Yes, but I think that it does come back to us as coaches in our practice plans, that we also have to value it in the practice and understanding that they can learn from it. Like Tom Malloy is a master at it with small area games and that. And I know Mike has shared about a gentleman that they basically outlawed small area games in warm up because that's all that coach did, and he was very successful with it. And it's that whole piece of embracing the play and supporting kids. It was last night in one of my practices, we started with some heavy compete, and I blew it down and brought the kids in and said, why is there laughing? Why is there smiling while you're doing this? And they saw the concerned look on my face, and they thought they were in trouble. I'm like, exactly. I said, compete is supposed to be fun. Is it frustrating and going to piss you off from time to time? Yes, but it's supposed to be fun. That's the core of our game, is you have to compete. If you don't compete, this game is not going to be very good at all. So but I don't know whether I answered you, Wally. I'm just rambling all over the place today.
That's good rambling. Peter.
Yeah, actually, Jordan, I've got a question for you. A couple points I want to make, and then I got a question. So when I used to be involved in prep school, and I would go to different events that were held, there was always very often the parent and player kind of panel where they could ask questions. And one of the things that I noticed was up until about age 12, the kids were extremely engaged in asking questions about prep school, what it was like living away from home, the hockey, all that. As soon as they became 8th graders, they would look to the left, look to the right, and look behind them to see if anybody else had a hand up before they would go. So it was so interesting to me that there was that real dividing line between those two ages of when it was okay to still be free and open, if you will, and ask anything you want to ask, versus when it became, I got to worry about being cool. Also, I've got a 7-year-old grandson now, and my favorite, I mean, I know when I ask him, how was your day? What was your favorite class? I know like most kids, it's probably going to be recess, which is great. And I ask him what they do at recess, and they're pretty creative. So he said, well, we played Jack in the Box. I'm like, all right, what's that? He said, well, one kid has a ball, and then there's 4 or 5 other kids, they're about 20 feet apart, and you throw the ball. If you catch the ball, you get to come up and be the Jack in the Box to throw it to the other kids. So I thought it was interesting that they had a name for the game that I think has absolutely zero relationship to what the actual game is. But those kids so they're creative in that. And I moved that up to like that 12-year-old that is still ready to be open and free. So what happens in that period where we lose sort of those golden moments where the kids are just being kids to all of a sudden what somebody else thinks matters more than what they think?
That's a really interesting one, Peter. And grade 8 is an interesting age in itself. When I was first starting as an educator, a mentor teacher said to me, he said that there's nothing farther from human than a grade 8 girl. And it is so true. But they do become humans quicker than the grade 8 boys do after that. But I don't know the full answer to it, but I do know what you're talking about in the whole piece of judgment. And we as adults, I think, struggle with it too. Always concerned about, well, how will this look rather than what it actually is? Are we doing what's best? And so the kids piece, that judgment piece comes in, and especially in group settings where they might not know people. But it's one of those pieces that we find is really interesting. And so that's the other piece, going back to the rewiring, is what that author is talking about with the book, The Anxious Generation, is talking about how, of course, everything that they're doing online is all about appearances, and it's not about reality. Because like I'm fully admit that I'm not a subscriber to social media. And it isn't just because I got gray hair and the kids will call me a boomer. But it's because the time that I know that it takes, and I know that I probably get sucked into it just the same way as they do. And you go on Instagram or any of those types of platforms, and people are showing you their best pictures of everything, right? They're not showing you the crap that's going on in the day. They're not showing you about dragging themselves out of bed to get to work, or what it looks like to be frustrated with several things, unless they're doing the opposite and putting out hater videos. But it's one of those pieces that we're all being judged continually. And now you're not just being judged by those who have direct sight line on you, you're being judged by those around the world. And so that's one of the pieces why Peter is probably getting even worse, why people won't stand up and ask questions. And that I have it where I'll have more parents now, and in my career, this is my 21st year as a school administrator, and I have far more parents now that send me email and I'll try and phone them back, and they won't answer the phone. That they'll just send me another email, and it's like, well, what could be resolved in a 2 to 3 minute phone conversation is going to be 30 or 40 emails, which are going to take way much more time than that. So it's like it's just the way things are going, and it's scary. So it's some parts. So you will see, and Wally can attest to this probably, is that finding people that are willing to coach, finding people that are willing to step up into professions where you're going to be serving the public, is going to get harder and harder, I think.
You use the word serving, Jordan, and I think that all of us are sort of in, dedicating our lives to the game and making it better. And I think it is serving. And I that gives you a perspective. When you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, I think you can have a peace of mind. And I know I am spending time on media, Instagram, Facebook. Uh, but the thing that I found most effective for real, immediate communication is texting. And I know there are people that I text that give me an immediate response, which I like. And I'm quite surprised because everybody's busy in their own ways in their own worlds. But when you text, you're talking to somebody that you would converse with, but you may not get their attention trying to answer the phone or read the email and respond to the email. So I've had pretty good success with testing. And for all of you, I need to learn how to text PDFs. And Tom Malloy has done some texting of PDFs. In fact, Tom is at the Calgary Flames practice right now. I told him to join us on the phone. He sent me one of the drills that he's observing as we talk at the Flames practice. But it is amazing the potential of communications that are available and ways of communicating that are available in today's world. I guess if you really care about society as a whole, I'm just concerned about what's real, what are facts, and how can you make judgment and filter the information that might be fake news, might not be fake news, in terms of looking at making a real concrete decision. And I don't know about you, Mike, and Peter, but you're living in the States and you've got an election coming up, and it's all media now.
Well, yeah, it is. And I think to Jordan's point that what's scary to me is the fact that what we're doing right now, this real archaic thing called talking, is becoming obsolete. Even when I was coaching at university, and I would ask a player, hey, maybe something simple as, Johnny doesn't look like who he was. He was okay at practice today, and I know you're a good friend of his. Do you know what's going on? Yeah, I talked to him, and so I would say, okay, did you talk to him? Well, yeah, we texted. And the fact that they don't even understand that that's not talking. There's no tone in a text. There's no eye contact in a text. There's no maybe that little bit of a pause when you're talking with someone, or a sigh or whatever it may be. There are little signs that something is actually going on. To me, that's what's really, really scary, is that we now have a generation that thinks texting is the same as actually speaking.
I had a conversation with a 16-year-old girl trying out for the midget AA team. She's a pretty good student and a pretty good player. And I asked her about cell phones and not being able to use them in her school. And she said, it's been amazing. Kids are talking to each other now. They're conversing. And she likes it. So
it's this brand new thing called speaking. It's incredible.
Yeah, they're having conversations. They're actually communicating with one another, and you can see and sense their feelings, their emotions, verbal and eye contact. It's just something is so critical, And but Jordan, you've got a ban at the discretion of the staff at the school, and I'm not sure what the rules are and whether all schools have discretionary bans or just the whole 9 yards, no cell phones, like you take them away from the kids when they come into the dressing room and you give them back when they're done the game kind of thing. But this is a case where a 16-year-old student is quite happy that that's occurred. She mentioned an app that I've never heard of, which is all they communicated on. Like,
Yeah, well, the so for some of the students, yeah, it's when it has occurred, it takes the choice out then for them. So then they're okay with it because that piece. When it comes to with the team and that, we allow them to have their phones at times, but there are times where we ask for them to be away just because we want the players to be present with one another. And it is almost impossible to be fully present to each other when you have them around. So, and now with smart technology and smart watches and that, you'll be having a conversation and then all of a sudden somebody be looking at their wrist and you may as well stop the conversation because you know that you're now number 2 in that conversation to whatever's going on their wrist. So that piece, but it's something that we're working with. And yes, I do agree that there's more communication tools out there than ever, but they have to be used correctly. It's one of those pieces we just have to, just like everything else, have to teach and learn. So, but I just got summoned. I need to go and do my day job right now. So it was good to see you all, and I'm going to pop off here now.
thanks for coming on, Jordan.
Good to see you, Jordan.
Yeah, see ya.
Sammy? Oh, Tom's on. Are you at the rink, Tom?
Yeah, I'm at the rink. They're at the whiteboard, so I turned on here. You can see them out here.
Well, we've had a pretty interesting morning, and I'm going to give a question to Sammy. Sammy, you've heard all the talk about, we're talking about the communication piece and young players and the lack of actual conversation because of the reliance of texting and special communication pieces of apps. What's your take on that world in terms of your own daughters and the people you work with?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard world to navigate, right? My daughter is 8, her cousin's 8, so it's they're just sort of entering into this foray, and as a parent, knowing what's right and what's wrong. We're pretty lucky that we have a daughter with this incredible imaginary mind who just wants to play all the time. I mean, imaginary play is her forte. If we could just go to the park every single day, she would love that. So the things that she watches, like, because she, we are like most parents, and sometimes you need some time to be able to get work done or do other things. So she gets tablet time, as we call it. But the things that she's allowed to watch whatever she wants. It's kids YouTube. But she gravitates towards.
Tom, I think you might have to shut your sound off, Tom. I think there's some background noise, so you can't hear Sammy that well.
Oh, I was just going to say she gravitates towards, sometimes she's watching shows, but most of the time she's watching other people craft or other people build Lego or other people do things that on games that she likes. But to me, it's great. She's super creative. Every night she'll do like 3 or 4 hours of different kinds of art. So she might be cutting up new clothes for her stuffed animals, and then the next moment she's doing watercolor, and the next moment she's creating some new architectural build out of cardboard. But it's all in her head that's going on. But I do find that if she was allowed to just watch the tablet all day, she would. I mean, in a second. She loves it. Like, it's almost like us watching home improvement shows or gardening shows. It's like you kind of think you're doing it a little bit because you're watching somebody else do it, but you're not really doing it. But I mean, part of it, I guess it gives her some ideas. So interacting with my kids at the hockey school, I certainly find that the cell phones seem to become prevalent around age 11, 12, or I would say the upper age groups of my hockey school, they all have one. Like they would all have one. It would just be part of safety, I think, for the parents that they can get a hold of their kids. But then they also, I mean, they're on Snapchat, they're on TikTok, they're doing stuff. And I love what Jordan was saying, that it takes the choice out of it for the kids, because I think a lot of it is the fear of missing out, that they're not a part of something or they're going to miss something. But if nobody's allowed to do it, then it just is almost glorious. It's like whenever adults take, a getaway trip and go camping, or they go to a different country or a resort where you can't communicate on your cell phone as much, and everybody seems to love it, but then everybody gets right back into it as soon as they get home, because you don't want to miss out, or you don't want to miss seeing something, or but I think I'm like Jordan. I try to stay off social media because I just go down rabbit holes, and I never feel better getting off of it than I did getting onto it initially. So yeah, but it's not to say that I don't go check it and I don't go looking at it, but it certainly doesn't bring me joy like a lot of other things in life do. So I think for all of us, remembering that, and remembering that these kids, this is the world they live in too. So like my daughter is on a computer at school all day long too. Like the tablets are in the classroom. They're learning on the classroom, and they're, the whiteboard up front is a smart board where they're watching shows and they're doing things. So they got to know how to navigate it too. And I feel for teachers. How do you teach that, or how do you allow them to learn enough, but then also allow this other side of creativity to just happen?
Sammy, you used the word joy. And I think, I'm curious about everybody's, what are the most joyful things that are happening with you today in today's world, in the present time. And myself, the most satisfying thing is working with U13 girls and the coaching staff and watching how they respond. The young girls in particular are so focused and enjoying it and working so hard and performing so well. I can't sleep at night because I wake up thinking about it.
So excited. Wally, is that Jordan's team, like with Cassie, or no?
No, it's an age group younger. Tom
Okay.
coaching the U15s. Cassie daughter's on that team. But really, that's my most satisfying thing to do, is when I go out to an ice time. This year, if I'm present and with the permission of the coaches, I'm doing a progression on defensive play related to tactical skating, and then playing 1-on-1 and 2-on-2 situations in the D zone. And what they've
And it
done
brings you joy.
oh yeah, like well, it brought me joy when I was coaching you guys, because it was sort of your wheelhouse, because you spent your life working on that, coaching against the Soviets, and now you get a chance to share it. And when you see people taking it to heart and getting so much better at it, it's quite satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're working in a role I am, where it's more interfering and trying to avoid getting in the way, and yet being helpful as much as you can. So it's a time that you feel, gee, that was worthwhile. I felt good about it. And I know the girls did too, because of the enthusiasm they showed throughout and even after, and the thank yous after. So it's quite rewarding. But there is an app that called Find Me. Are you familiar with that, Cassie?
Find Me. I just know like Find My Phone, but not Find Me.
Okay, it's called I Find Me, and in other words, I've asked my family members to have that app so they could follow me wherever I am.
Oh, I gotcha. So you are like your phone beeps for them with a map.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I would appreciate knowing where they are,
Hmm.
but they don't want to give me that information. You know what I'm saying? There's that privacy,
Hmm.
and I've that bothers me because all I want to know is where they are. I want to connect with their lives in terms of, gee, they're at this campgrounds in Timbuktu or
Hmm.
whatever. And I keep encouraging me whenever they go out, say on a weekend or fishing or something, send me a picture because it you're living alone here and your family's away from you, and it's a chance to hear from them, see them, and very close to the present. So I find that's a little bit challenging for me. I'm frustrated by the fact I want them to track me for my own safety and their own concern, and I'd sure like to be
But
able to.
Wally, what are they doing? They don't want you to know where they're going.
Well, I think there's a sense of privacy they want,
Yeah.
and
Or they just don't want to answer all the questions, maybe. I don't know.
it's hard to say. I just scratch my head about it and let her be. I don't want to.
I think most parents now, when kids get cell phones, that is a regular part of the cell phone. Like, that is exactly why they're getting the cell phone, is to be able to track the kids. And, um, even like, for instance, on our bus, some of the parents of older kids know when the bus is late because the loop that they're on, they're still stuck at the school. The bus is still at the school. So, like things like that are just super handy to know, like, oh, I have time to start dinner or whatever. But Peter, I'm curious if do you have a bad hip or did you have hip surgery?
I had my second hip replacement in the last 7 months.
Oh, I'm now 3 years removed from a hip replacement.
Okay.
How's yours going?
Good. I had the first one done in December, which, in retrospect now, hindsight always being 2020, wasn't necessarily the best choice as far as the time of year because of rehab. Whereas this one I got done in July. It's
And you
great.
can go outside and walk and do
I
everything.
get outside. Yes, exactly. 100%.
Mm.
And that's the difference maker. Just being able to get outside, walk and move. I'm on the PT twice. I go twice a week right now, which next week there's another evaluation, which will be, I'm at 8 weeks tomorrow, but I hopefully I can graduate out, if you will. I call it getting paroled from PT, because I can do most of it myself at home.
Right.
I mean, I'm super comfortable with the whole athletics piece.
And you're probably pretty diligent about it. Do you feel that right away post-surgery, like the sort of arthritic pain was gone? Like, are you post that now?
Oh yeah, like 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, got now like from my knee up to where the prosthetic is, right up in the joint, like that's still numb, but
Yeah,
that's the
that
nerve
takes a while. Yeah.
figuring their lives out and knitting themselves back together and that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, the fact that there is no pain in that is great. And so that's been good. And Wally, like to your point, it's sort of all ties together a little bit. So I'm a big motorcyclist. I mean, I used to road race back in the day, do off-road competitions and all that stuff too. So I've got a bunch of friends that go on fairly long, like 1,500-mile plus motorcycle rides, which I wasn't able to take part in. But Wally, there is something, Google has something called Google Maps, and there's a feature on that you can activate. And so when they went on the ride, one of the guys did that. He said, I'm going to do this so you know what's going on. So I was able to live vicariously, if you will, sort of through them. I knew where they were at any point in the day, like where they stopped for lunch, where they stopped for dinner, what hotel they stayed at. I could follow the route that they went. So that was pretty good. And that's very easy to turn on and off. And that might be something, because that speaks more of what you're talking about, Roy. Like you said, like if they went to a campground, they could hit the Google map and you could see where the actual campground was because they do that overhead 30,000 foot view, so to speak. So that could be something for it, pretty cool too. But yeah, so Sammy, it's good. So what is it 3 years in? Like, what am I going to expect?
Yeah, I would say that, I even started back on the ice right away afterwards. And every month you realize how much better you're getting. And I thought I was really great at 2 months out. I thought, this is amazing. I can do so much again, because I could go for walks and I could do all of that. I would say that I was completely not thinking about it at probably 2 years, where it was it's not even a function of my life. But now 3 years out, I feel that the strength on both sides is now pretty equal. This was the first summer that when I was coaching goalies, I didn't reverse my position to demonstrate the other side. I feel like as coaches, you figure it out that you're like, okay, this is how you do it. And then let me just reverse here. And this is how you do it on the other side. So I was always doing the same leg. This was the first summer where I was demonstrating a lean and getting up on that leg and not having any strength issues. So I think I wasn't realizing where I was until I was past it. And now I feel and I'm very diligent about still doing physio and making sure. The one thing that really helped me, I had a lot of sort of back issues post-surgery, just from everything kind of getting into I think my back had just taken a lot of things. So I started up Pilates. I'd never done Pilates before. That really helped. But Pilates is just really a lot of stretching and strength, and getting the strength back in those muscle groups was super helpful. Relearning some of the things that just hadn't been probably working for the past decade that I didn't know hadn't been working.
When did you feel comfortable going back on the ice?
I was probably about a month out that I was on the ice, playing recreational, not coaching even. Coaching, I think, when you're walking, I feel like you can coach. But playing rec hockey, I struggled turning to that side because I play D, but I play a very low level of recreation hockey. So I started with the lowest level. And then I got back into my highest level, probably, I would say, a year out, where I felt like going to either side was fine. But I didn't start goaltending again.
Sure.
I still haven't gone back to recreational goaltending. I kind of have shied away from that, just thinking I don't know, not that I couldn't do it, but do I need to do it?
Yeah, it's so interesting too, because I've got the friends that I have that were goaltenders. Typically, when they go back to the whole adult league circuit, they play D.
Yeah, I play either D or forward. But I feel so much more comfortable on D.
Yeah.
But playing out just brings me so much joy. I just love it, because I'm new to it. You're learning, as an adult, that's just an amazing thing. Whereas as a goalie, I'm still letting goals in, and I still leave dissecting each goal, and so there isn't too much of I did it. There isn't that. Whereas playing forward or D, I don't even know the score of the game half the time. So
yeah. So it's interesting because one of the guys, he used to be a goaltender for the Hartford Whalers, and when we would play in the alumni games, he'd have the jersey, his goalie skates, and sweatpants, and he'd be playing D, and you could just see him constantly. All he would do was just center his body on the puck.
Totally.
That's all he would, right? And then the players would come, the poor firemen or state police that they were playing against would come down at what to their minds was 100 miles an hour, and he would simply stare, wait, and just poke the puck off their stick.
Just poke it out. Or they try to go through your legs and you just turn your foot and you're like, what are you thinking? The one issue I think with goalies at every level that go back to play D is you end up in the crease a lot. I end up screening my goalie a lot.
Okay.
Because I'm right in the middle, right? I'm in position, but it's not always great for the goalie.
Well,
But it's fun.
You got to give back a little bit to what they gave you.
Yeah, exactly. So now I would say, Peter, at 3 years, I feel comfortable. Last year I played at my first tournament where you play multiple games in a day, and the recovery was okay. And I feel like a lot of it is just getting over the first fall where you're okay. It's oh, okay, I'm okay. I I went skiing and I was really apprehensive, but then realized, okay, I could ski. And then you take your first spill and you realize, okay, I am okay. That just gives you so much more confidence. So all of those like little hesitant things, you just got to get over those first ones. I think that was the biggest. It was a mindset more than anything for me, I think.
Yeah, because I'm hoping to be able to get back on the ice because I'm working with some youth organizations, mentoring and that. So it'd be fun to be able to get back on. And it's probably going to be like next fall at this point with the rotation of the, having had surgery in July.
Yeah, but I think you should feel comfortable if you want to be helping out by January. Like I think that, especially just out there, you're maybe not demonstrating as well as you could have prior, but yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. So I'm looking forward to that. Plus, like I
Especially
said,
if you're walking around the neighborhood now, like you're feeling pretty good. So
yeah, no, it's good. You still ice during the day, on and off here and there, but I'm doing everything else I need to do. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, congrats. It's a big
Thank-
step.
Wally, sorry to bore you with
Yeah.
hip surgery. Sorry,
Sorry. Some
apologize.
hip replacement issues.
But looking at that Google Maps, Wally, that could be something because it's something where it's not on their phone all the time, where they have the ability to just put it on or put it off, and it's a lot more fun than just the tracking app because it shows you the picture of where they actually are.
Yeah.
It must be like in Google Maps, like a share option. Is that what it is?
Yes, it's some sort of a share option, but like you actually see the building of where they walked into to have lunch.
Hmm. That's cool. I'm just looking at my Google Maps now to see where the option is, but
Yeah, I'll ask my friend.
yeah.
I'll ask him
Ask
to.
them what because it's probably just a very straightforward button that you push and you just probably say the email that you want to send or text or. That's cool.
Yeah.
No, I'm
So we'll digress.
the people that have had surgery. I wish I had it 10 years ago. It was suggested, but I didn't feel any pain, and I was still going on the ice. But it was bone on bone on my left knee, and now it's reached a point where I'm waiting another year for a knee replacement, and my walking is quite imbalanced, and as a result, I've got hip problems and probably need a hip replacement on the other hip. So at my age, it's a little disconcerting because when you live alone, I'm just not sure I can function. So I don't know if I'm going to bother and got to see what kind of care you can get up here.
Yeah, and a knee is a little bit more of a rehab too, I've heard from people that have had knee surgeries.
I've heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Sammy, you mentioned something. This is getting back to the hockey, and you mentioned getting a goal scored on you, and I'm curious about that mental side of goaltending. I don't think guys are bothered by a goal be scoring on them as much as girls, but to me, it's the biggest distraction, which some female athletes never get around. They just can't cope with that.
I would say that it's not, from what I've seen, not necessarily a gender issue. It tends to be the type of personality. So when I'm, seeing young goaltenders, it's hard to, I actually don't know how to coach that out of them. I don't know how, like you can either see a young goalie that is, okay with getting scored. I'm okay is the wrong word. Can get past it. Can stop the next puck. And different goalies have different ways of dealing with it. I would always attempt to park it. I would usually watch the replay and see, how I got scored on. I'll think about it for a little bit and then be done. Try to stop that next puck. But I would go home and I would journal every goal and what I should have done or what could have happened. I never, I felt like every puck's savable, something I was never blaming anybody else. It was always, what could I have done differently? How could I have found the puck? If you're screened, it's still, you have that option. But at certainly teaching and coaching so many young goalies, the goalies that get really angry and frustrated are probably not going to go far. Simply, they just don't have the mentality to be able to park it or get rid of the distraction. And they tend to go downhill pretty quickly in the game. You can see that, like, it just, and it happens to the best of us at times for sure, but that's hard to coach out. And that's maybe more of a sports psychologist issue at that point, but you can see it in ages 7 and 8, 9, like they kind of either have that or they don't. I equate it with one of my best friends, the high jumper. And in high jump and pole vault, you always fail at the end. There's always a failure in every single competition. I mean, unless you break the world record and win the gold medal and decide to stop jumping at that point. But usually you keep going for those higher levels. So there's always failure. And so goaltending is like that. There's always failure. And yeah, I wouldn't say it is a gender issue. I haven't seen more or less in boys or girls. Sometimes boys will manifest it in a different way with an actual physical, break your stick over the net or something, or yell at somebody. But that doesn't mean that the girl is not thinking about it in a different way. So we work on at goalie school different ways to deal with it. And we did small area groups with our instructors off the ice this year, where the instructor talked about how they dealt with it at various different times in their career and some suggestions. And then we talked to the kids about, like, how do you deal with it? And just getting that sharing circle of giving them some ways to cope and some ways to distract themselves. For me, it was, I would say to myself, I want to stop the next puck. You don't want to be shy away from that next puck. And it's very natural to think, okay, well, if they just don't come in my end, they won't score on me again. But to want to sort of save it and, make that the challenge that it's the next puck, not the last puck. But I mean, that's also easier said than done for a lot of people. So I don't know if that necessarily answered your question, Wally, but yeah, I don't think it is a gender issue. I think it's just a personality issue.
Sammy, when you were journaling your goals, did you find a pattern? Did you find a pattern like, you know what, it looks like I wrote down again, short side over my shoulder?
Yeah, for sure. Like, it was just like when I was journaling, lifting or throwing or anything I did, it was, I would then go and work on that at practice. In my, like, it's not like I never had goalie coaches really. So that's what I would be working on, like that slide across to make sure that my glove stays up because I felt like my glove was down. Or in practice, if you're that deflection, like working on different ways to maybe get closer to the player so the deflection is not as far, or finding the puck, or but yes, I would certainly find patterns, and whether it be the night before to the next day's practice, or it be patterned over months or years. We didn't have any video, Peter, so like even with the national team, we rarely did any video that concerned the goalies. It was simply like we would get shown a mass video of maybe the Team Canada goals and us making saves as like a motivation before a game, but it wasn't like the coach was taking us aside and showing us this is where you're scored on. Whereas now goalies, with lots of the various different, if a game is filmed, you can see exactly where the puck went in and you can like replay it as well. Often I would just try to quickly catch the Jumbotron to see if what the Jumbotron and what my brain thought were the same thing.
Yeah, I love the idea of the journaling because, again, we're in such an instant world today, right? Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff. Looking at the video, you see it, but to be able to actually see the written word that is actually your own written word, right? Getting sort of in your own head in a positive way. I think that can be hugely
and
beneficial.
how you felt it. I also was super negative on myself I mean, I'm a super positive person. And I think for me, my journaling and my diary entries were my time to be super negative and be done with it. So I wasn't necessarily, like I went back when I wrote my book to like look to see, I mean, I would journal about games and stuff like that and just to go through them. And I realized like I wasn't the most positive person on myself. I was pretty hard on myself. But then I think for me, it was done after I journaled. You know, I didn't sort of replay it all night. I didn't think about it after that. It was just, okay, it's on the paper and now it's done.
Yeah, you got it out. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, it was either that or my husband, I guess. So.
Yeah, there you go.
How soon did you start journaling, Sammy?
Well, I was lucky to get into track and field at a pretty early age, Wally, and that's where we learned to journal. And the journal was together with the logbook. Like it was kind of all the same thing. So it was, track and field, as you know, so biomechanical that it's the minutia of the details. So really like writing down and making sure that I was capturing everything that the coaches were saying and that I was doing in relation to what the coaches were saying. So I would say I was taught that probably the age of 12 or 13. And now we do the same thing at my goalie school also. So we set aside time. They get a journal and they get a description of every drill as well. So that, whether you're 7 or 17, you're going to journal in different ways. And some of the little kids might just draw a picture of them. They might do a heart if they like to drill, various different things like that. Whereas the older kids will actually write down what they learned in the drill, maybe what they could have gotten better, what they did really well, so that they get used to doing that at a younger age, and hopefully serves them well for not just hockey, but for sort of life in general.
The idea of refocusing, like you had a phrase, it's, what was that next goal? Next
Yeah, like I wanted to stop the next goal.
Yeah, and
I wanted to stop the next puck. Yeah.
Many years ago, working with Dave King, he would send me to Toronto to take Theory 4 courses because he was too busy coaching. So I would go there and benefit from them and come back and give him a summary of what was done. And I actually put to practice what I picked up in my high school curriculum. And I created a sports psych grade 10, 11, 12 program, 5 hours, 1 week, and then 2 weeks at the 30 phys ed 30 level, which was grade 12. And those were where kids were staying in phys ed that long. They were quite serious and would benefit from it. And I picked up on the formal process of teaching them how to refocus and going through writing down what it is that bothers you the most in a game and prioritizing it, the 2 or 3 things, and then describing your physical symptoms in writing, and then changing it. What are you learning from it? So that you can change it from that negative feeling to a learning opportunity and get the negative emotions out because you've now practically approached it in writing, and then having a cue word, a cue phrase. I put that into practice with the ringette team. I volunteered to coach the senior ringette team in Alberta. It was a senior team that won the national championship. And the only reason I agreed to do it was I could do that sports psychology experiment. The season was long enough. School seasons, football, wrestling, track were too short. And I mean, we won the national championship, and it's called a subjective units of distress scale, a SUD scale. And it's something that worked for me. And I've been trying to advocate it with Girls Hockey Calgary in terms of just go through it once, write down what bothers you, what's your
Well, I think
symptom.
the book that Jordan showed earlier with anxiety, people are something about anxiety and just how prevalent anxiety is in well, even in elementary school, he was saying, you know, so I think something like that would be so valuable because they don't have a way to get rid of it or to park it or where it should go.
Yeah.
They just feel it. How's it going, Tom?
Oh, it was really good practice I just watched.
Was it the senior team?
Yeah, this is the best players were all out there.
Okay.
So Brad told me the times last night, and I came to the 9 o'clock one. So I think they practiced 9, 11 in one different groups.
Yeah.
But they did a lot of really good, really high, fast. They shoot a lot harder than my girls do.
Sammy, Brad
You know,
passed
Winsport here,
on-
you can only sit at the very end, eh?
Brad, as you know, is Cassie's husband, eh?
Mhm.
He's the assistant GM of the Flames. And Tom's coaching Brooke, their daughter, on the U15 team.
Oh, nice.
And,
Is Cassie coaching this year, Tom?
She's going to help a bit, but she's not regular, like all time. Like 2 years ago, it was her and I and Jim. But right now, I've got 2 of our former players coaching and a goalie coach, and so she'll come out, you know, when I need her. She's in Toronto right now, I think. Probably with the women's hockey league there.
Probably. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Brad had Brooke there last night.
Gotcha. And Brad is normally with the Hitmen, right?
No, the Wranglers, the American
Oh,
League team.
Wranglers. Right, right.
Yeah, he's assistant GM of the Flames and GM of the Wranglers.
Right. Gotcha.
So he was just in Penticton for that rookie tournament that they have last weekend.
So did you enjoy practice today?
It was a really good practice. They did a lot of really good things. They worked on some team play things and you know, a lot of really fast-paced drills. So
That's so
bunch
cool
of
that you
good
get to do
ideas.
that.
Hi, Al.
Hi.
Hi, Hal.
Hi.
You're
How are
back
you?
from Iceland.
welcome back from Iceland.
Thank you. Then I got caught on a work call. Imagine that. Well, hockey is work, right?
I really enjoyed the pictures. They were amazing. Have you ever experienced geography like that?
No, that's a pretty unique area on the planet, primarily because it's formed basically it's volcanic. It's like Hawaii a little bit, but it's I mean the variety of stuff on geological things on that island are really amazing. That's actually my third trip there, and I'm still trying to get Malloy's ticket from Salzburg refunded, but when they, but anyways, yeah, it was a good trip. I got pretty tired. It's taken me 4 or 5 days to kind of get rested up enough. More photos coming, better photos coming, but
How long were you there for, Hal?
9 days.
Because my brother-in-law and his wife are there now for 8 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So most people go and they travel around the island on what's called the Ring Road, but we were actually up in the middle of the island most of the time.
Okay.
They call the Highlands, where there isn't 10,000 people. And, but, there's the famous places that everybody goes to. And so when we went to some of those, and I've been to them a couple times before. So now I'm looking for photographs that are a little different than just the standard, waterfall. So now we coin a phrase as penguins, and the penguins are the tourists that are waddling along in all these places. So we take pictures of the penguins with the waterfalls in the background and stuff like that. So make kind of a game out of it. So anyways, Sammy, how are you?
I'm doing great. I missed you for the last hour and a half, but good to see you. It's I've actually been to Iceland a bunch with the women's rec goes to Iceland a lot. There's tournaments over there, and Billy and I have been a couple times working with the women's national team.
How many rinks do they have there?
So they have 2 in Reykjavik,
Yeah.
1 up in Akureyri, but not many. There maybe is another 1, but yeah, it's certainly ice hockey is not prevalent out there, which is surprising. But
Yeah, it's a long way to travel to play games.
yeah, there's a women's rec tournament there that everybody loves going to every year, and it tends to be a lot of women's rec teams from Toronto that travel over. And,
oh, really? Oh,
and then there's 2 women's adult rec teams in Iceland.
okay.
So they kind of incorporate the women, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Mhm.
I like it there. It's interesting. But we were moving pretty fast all the time. So in and out of our van all the time, 8, 9, 10 times a day to photograph different things. Weather was not great. The wind was blowing about 30 miles an hour most of the time, even when it was raining. So it wasn't quite as weather friendly as it has been in the last couple of trips. So what'd you guys solve in the hockey world here while I was on the phone?
Well, Tom's at the Calgary Flames practice right now.
Ooh.
It's all
Yeah, they had their
over.
first-
It might be
They had
in
their
the
first
car on
practice
way
of the
home.
year.
First practice of the year?
Yeah.
Get all the blood washed off your face and everything?
Yeah, I was looking for a scar. No scar?
Oh, you're on mute now.
You're on.
That picture was from last year. It was right here.
Oh, okay.
Just looking for sympathy, huh?
I made a pass and it was unbelievable. The stick went right across my face. I couldn't believe that his stick went that high after he passed the puck.
Oh,
He was falling down. So Sammy, the new pro league, women's league, thoughts?
Well, we can get into that another time, Tal, or I would go on and on. But yeah, they're doing well. It's I'll leave it at that for now. We can have a whole session on the good, the bad, and the ugly. But it's I'm happy for people that have worked really hard for that.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
That's cool.
Yeah. But I do want to get the whole background on the Minnesota team and what your thoughts on Natalie Darwitz and all of that, which is just seems crazy. It was, anyways.
Well,
We'll go. That'll be for a whole nother session.
Hockey's crazy in general, so
I know.
we're watching all these kids that same in Canada. There's probably 10,000 kids trying to play junior hockey in the United States now, and they end up on a team. One of the kids I advise, and they told me they love him, and he's on the trade wire. And then the BCHL is sort of freezing up rosters, so kids are dropping. They drop to the next level, and the USHL is getting ready. They're starting to cut kids, so they drop into the next level down. So those teams drop kids on their rosters to the next level. I mean, it's
just really tough time for those kids too. It's
a really tough time, really hard. Now, is it bad or good? I was talking with one of the guy that kind of runs our advisory group, and he's got a kid that was, I think last year in high school, he scored almost 50 points in 25 games, and he's up trying to play in the North American Hockey League, and the kid is saying, I can't do this. It's too hard.
Such a jump.
But that's actually a good thing. I mean, I guess that's what junior hockey's all about. Who can tough it out?
Yeah.
And who's tough enough and who can play and want to go through the grind to get to the next level. And a lot of these kids, at least here in Minnesota, that have played on really, really high end high school teams, they've never really had to play very hard because they don't have a lot of competition.
Mm.
And they've never had to struggle. Oh my God, there goes my phone again. Anyways, we can do that another time too.
Who's practicing here?
Oh yeah. So is that Tom? Is that the next group of guys, or who's out there?
No, that's sledge hockey.
Oh, sledge hockey's out there.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if that's just the guys that live in Calgary training.
I don't know. I was just walking, all the arenas are at Winsport. I was walking by this one and
Is that where
I
the
got some
Flames
pretty-
practice is at Winsport?
well, they're starting here. I don't know when they go to the Saddle Dome,
Oh,
but I think it's probably easier if you got 3 groups to be at Winsport.
do they have a dedicated dressing room at Winsport for the Flames?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. I think they probably have a few of them.
Yeah.
for
Or
this.
maybe they use Hockey Canada's right now or something.
Yeah, I would guess they take over that for a week or so, something like that.
Yeah. Interesting.
I had some pretty good news from my friend in Jasper. His house burnt down in that
Oh wow.
fire. So anyways, he just interviewed for the job to run the hockey, the arena in Jasper. And he got the job, so he was pretty excited about that.
And the arena was saved from the fires?
Yeah, it's the way the fire went. I don't know if you've been to Jasper very much, but it got up and there's a park that's about 2 blocks long. I kind of stopped there, and then there's a street, and across the street is the high school. The schools are there, and then at the end of that field is the arena, and it didn't get there.
Hmm.
It's almost like that 2 blocks of grass kind of stopped it. And
Wow, that's lucky.
Was a
yeah,
hockey
so it
god.
saved the rink and all the recreation facilities, which
The
is
school
nice for the
gods.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, the school's okay. But anyways, but they won't be going. He might bring me there at Christmas to do a thing I used to do, but there's only half the people live there now because half the town burned down.
Hmm.
Uh,
So it'd be interesting anyway. But he has a B&B outside of the park, so that's where they've been living.
Oh, they're lucky.
Yeah. But he was an engineer, train engineer for CN. So he retired a few years ago. So
And did
He's
they
always
build their
been
house,
involved
or
in their
what?
hockey.
Did they move into a made house already?
just what?
Did they build their own house in Jasper and retire there?
Well, he's lived in Jasper forever.
Oh,
You can only live there if you work there and that. You can't just build a house and live there because it's a national park.
mm.
Yeah. So, yeah, but his house was right on the edge of the mountain, and I imagine the fire just came down and probably one of the first ones to go, I'm guessing.
Oh, it's too bad. Well,
But,
everybody, it was really great to see everybody. Hal, I'm glad I got to see you right at the end.
Oh, sorry it was late, but
No worries. Now that school has started back up, hopefully I can be on more calls. So,
that's good.
Sammy, I'm gonna give Pasco a call to see if I can get you and Dave Marcoux and him on. I'm sure it'll be a wonderful conversation with 3 people, and I'm really looking forward to setting
that
that
would
up.
be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take care, guys.
Okay.
Cheers, Hammy.
I gotta run too. Hey, see you guys. Take care. Are
Okay.
we, is
Okay,
next
see you,
week,
Hal.
are we on again next week or is, yeah, next Thursday?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Hockey season's cranking up. It's the best time of year. We're all
Okay.
undefeated still. See you later.
Well, you guys
Hal,
take care. I
how's-
gotta go too. I'm standing in the hallway here.
all right. Good luck to you. I'm gonna go grab some lunch. I'm on a different time zone than you. My stomach's rumbling.
Yeah, I gotta go grab some breakfast.
There you go.
You guys have a good day.
Take care. See you,
Good
Wally.
weekend, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.